So thanks again so much for attending today's demo. Again, my name is Hannah, and I will be taking you through today's session. I'm one of the BigMarker's community dream team members, so to speak, so thanks again. And as I mentioned previously, if you have any questions during today's webinar, I would be happy to answer them. We're probably going to stick it at the end in a Q&A session, but if you want to chat them in at any time, feel free to use the chat to chat and ask those questions. So today I'm just going to give you a very general overview of BigMarker from the host perspective. So how to get on BigMarker, how to host a webinar, schedule it, all that good stuff. And so we'll go through everything. And again, if you have any questions, let me know and we will go over it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And if you could just let me know when you see it, that would be awesome. Check the chat, make sure. Okay, thanks, Brian. Alrighty, so this is my logged in homepage. And if you're not familiar with BigMarker, this is kind of the Discover section where not only hosts, but also people looking to attend webinars can come and kind of organically come across some great public webinars. And we'll get to public and private kind of settings in a bit, but wanted to show you kind of the overall layout here. And so this is our Happening on BigMarker page. And I know I'm logged in because I see this little picture with my profile image in the top right-hand corner. If you don't have a profile image there, you'll see a letter. It's your first initial of your first name. So that's how you'll know you're logged in. And then if I go to My Events, which is also another part of this kind of homepage area, which is where you'll actually land when you kind of go to your logged in page. You could see everything that you're hosting. So as a kind of webinar host, you'll see all of your upcoming webinars, or if you're a channel admin, which we'll also get to the channel in just a bit, you'll also have those webinars coming up. And then if you're planning to attend any webinars, or if you have any webinars happening in your channel that you might not be hosting, but you might be attending, those will show below there. And I keep kind of throwing around the word webinar and channel. And those are two very important, two very different things. So if I were to go to, say, this webinar here, hosting your first successful webinar, you'll see that every webinar that you have, here I'll get to the live page, this is where attendees would kind of get dropped off. Every webinar that you host is going to have its own designated live webinar page. And this is where you come to register, or your attendees come to register for the event. This is where you enter the webinar. So as you saw today, you entered a webinar that looked a little bit different than this, but this is how you got into the webinar. And then after the webinar is hosted, this is where the recording posts. So where this image is, it would disappear and it would be the recording. So that link through and through the entire process stays the same if you were to share that URL. And you have that shareable link below here, so you can always share that. And just kind of going through the kind of makeup of a webinar on BigMarker, it will look a little bit different. Obviously, since I'm co-hosting this webinar, I have all of my edit, design, promote, manage, and those kind of tools. But your attendees would just be prompted to register on this page. So you have your About This section, agenda, and I'll zoom in here so you can kind of see a little bit better. The categories in which kind of fits into, if people were organically searching for your webinar, they could find it with those tags. And also featured presenters, so kind of giving more information about who's hosting to really entice people to registering for your event. So that's definitely very important to fill out all that information to really entice people to register. And then as you'll see below here, it says hosted by, and in this section, this is actually what that channel aspect of the platform is that I'm talking about. I'm going to check back quickly and see if anyone has any questions. Oh, awesome. Looks like Brian has a funding one here. For Jazz, I'm going to just copy and paste this again, send it to him or her, and let them know that they can go ahead and email support if they have any support-related questions. But it doesn't look like anyone has any questions about the webinar hosting process so far, so we'll get to the channel aspect. So again, hosted by each webinar on BigMarker is hosted out of what is called a BigMarker channel. And the channel is essentially the landing page for all of your webinars, both upcoming and recorded. You have a great bulletin section, a calendar. You have a subscriber list, so people who have previously attended or are planning to attend your webinars, you get them all kind of congregated into one place. Your About page, which is essentially your home page of your channel. And then to manage your channel, you just go to your settings. And obviously, again, as an admin of this channel, I have the settings option, but not just your average Joe would. So I've landed on the bulletin of this channel, and as you can see, it is kind of similar to a Facebook news feed. You can always post and share things there, so that's something fun to kind of have to continue the conversation on, either before or after webinars or in between them. Calendar is just a very standard calendar view. I'm not going to go too much into detail because it's very kind of what everyone's used to as far as calendar views go. Webinars, so as you can see when I click here, I have all of these upcoming webinars coming up with Ken Mollet, our kind of featured host this week, and this month rather. So we have 4 upcoming webinars that are all happening within the next few weeks. And then also, if there were previously hosted, so recordings, those would show below. So this is kind of the webinars page on your channel is where all of those webinars would kind of funnel into. Subscribers, this is just, again, your membership list, so you can reach out to them and have individual kind of private conversations or messages through those people, or you can invite your entire subscriber list to your webinars. So it's great they kind of build up that kind of content, subscriber list. And then the About page is, again, just the home page or landing page to the event, so you can make that look really nice, and you can always send invites to your channel so that people can kind of go ahead and browse around your webinar content and all that good stuff. So going back to the actual webinar page, we've kind of taken a look at what a really good webinar page looks like. And again, if I'm landing on the live page, this is what everyone would see. So we have some great images, the About That section, and all that great stuff. So you might be wondering, how do I actually do this for myself? So how to actually schedule and create a webinar on BigMarker is super duper easy. You just go to the top right-hand corner of the screen and click this green schedule button. When I click it, I get a little pop-up that asks me to fill out some really basic information. So title of your event, which you could change at any time, hosted by. So again, that BigMarker channel that you have, if you have multiples, you want to make sure you select the correct one. But for most of you, you'll probably only have one. Event type. You can choose between webinar, which is standard, or private session, demo, live class, workshop, really whatever you want to call it. Categories. You can select some categories for your channel, again, to make those searchable on BigMarker. And then privacy, you can choose if you want to make it public or private. If you do select private, you can make other privacy settings on there, such as adding a password or other good stuff like that, but that's kind of just the basics right now. And then just picking the date, duration, and time, and then notifying if it will be a recorded event. And again, note that you do have to record your event, or at least press record when you are ready to host a live event. But this just lets your attendees know in advance that it will be a recorded webinar. And then finally, in the invite section here, it says, do you want to auto-invite your channel subscribers within 24 hours after you've created your webinar? And then once you've just made all of these decisions, you just click schedule. And I've actually gone ahead and created one now so you can kind of see what it looks like to have just a very bare bones webinar. So it does look a little bit different from this previous one. It doesn't have any images, no about section. So I'll show you how to do all of that now. So after I've scheduled my webinar, I get dropped off on this edit section. I'll zoom in again to show you. It's just this edit tab here. I'm going to quickly check back and see if anyone has any questions. Okay, it looks like Brian's asking, what do co-presenters experience? Do they receive a separate link to log in with? It's a great question. So co-presenters, and there's actually 2 ways to kind of set up your co-presenters. And I'll just kind of quickly go through event details because presenters is next on the list. So I'll keep that in the back of my mind. So event details quickly. Again, this is where you can edit your title. You can decide if you want it to be a scheduled webinar, which is just your very standard webinar, or if you want it to be an always open room. So that's kind of what we call our 24-hour room. So if you want to just have it be kind of like drop-in office hours, you can do it that way as well. And then just going through adjusting those categories, duration, if you wanted to, reschedule your event for whatever reason. And then also adding a very compelling about event section is very important to registrations. If you're looking for lead generation and things like that, you'll definitely want to fill out this about section and also add some bullet points or agenda topics here below. Now getting back to Brian's question about presenters. So you as the admin are going to be setting up the webinar, and then you have two kind of options as far as presenters go. If you have a co-presenter who will be kind of through and through hosting each webinar with you or hosting their own webinars and things like that, you can add in your channel settings. So again, remembering back to when we went through the channel, you have that settings tab, which allows you to kind of augment the settings of your channel. If you go to the members section of your channel settings, you can add organizers, or which are basically admins of your channel, to kind of be able to host and manage your webinars always. So we have 3 people on my team in this channel: myself, my colleagues Joe and Andy, who I could just add outright, and they would just be added to the webinar, no problem. Get a notification email. That would be it. Now, if you have a guest presenter, so somebody who would be hosting, the webinar with you maybe once, twice max, you can always add a new presenter. And to do that, you just click this blue Add a New Presenter button, and I'll zoom out here. You just get a little pop-up that asks you to fill out some basic information, so their name, title, bio, and then important here is the contact information. And when you enter in their email, it actually sends an invitation to them that asks them to accept their kind of co-hosting responsibilities. And when they do that, once they accept, they're automatically entering as an admin unless you decide otherwise in this permission section. And essentially what it will allow them to do is they'll get notifications leading up to the event that will allow them to enter the webinar as a presenter like I'm doing, rather than just an attendee like all of you are watching. So adding the presenter is important. But if you did have kind of like a last-minute presenter, you can also add them in the room live, and I can show you how to do that once we get inside. But it's also good to add these presenters beforehand, because then, as we saw with Ken Molay's webinar, they'll show up in the featured presenters section. So people are always interested in who's hosting. You can give that bio and image and let people know, ahead of time who's hosting. So that's the adding a presenter section. I hope that makes sense, Brian. I'll check back, see. Looks like you don't have any other questions about that, so we'll kind of move forward. So moving on for presenters, event size. This is kind of the next step in the edit process. So event size, each plan that or each plan on BigMarker, each paid plan or subscription, whatever you want to call it, is really based on attendee size. So for this one, for this channel that I'm hosting it out of, it is 1,000 attendee capacity. Now, if I ever wanted to cap my attendance, I could always do so here in the attendance cap, and I would just decide, how many attendees could register or join the webinar, and so if you had a smaller meeting or wanted to only let the first 25 people who registered be able to attend, you can always do that. Next, we have sell tickets. So in the sell tickets section, each webinar is auto-selected to no tickets, but if you did want to sell some tickets, you just select paid, and then you can decide if you wanted to, or how much you wanted to charge for the live event, and then if you wanted to charge for the recording, how much. So you can decide between the two if you want to make them the same or different. And there's also a coupon code here that you can share to allow people to attend for free. There's also a newer option which is really cool for lead generation, and this is allowing people to get a free ticket to your event when they share it on social media, and they would just attach a screenshot when they register, and it signs them up for free. So that's a great way to get people to register and spread the word about your event. Then finally, we have the donation option, which makes it a free webinar, but they will get prompted to donate when they are attending live, and you can make the price for that as well. Moving on to privacy. If I'm going to have a public webinar, I don't really need to worry too much about it. And when we say public, we mean that your webinar will be listed on the BigMarker search engine and on potentially even on the BigMarker homepage. And then also it's searchable on Google and things like that. Now, if it were a private webinar, it would not list the event publicly, and then I could decide my advanced privacy settings. So only those with who are invited through BigMarker, only members of my channel, only one with the link, or only those with the link, or only those with a password. And then also guest access, that allows people who did not register for your event to be able to essentially quick register when your event is happening by just entering a name and an email at the start of the webinar and then being able to get in. So if you did want to disable that, you'd have to untick that box. Moving on, you just have your recording permissions, deciding who can view the recording. That's, if you did want to make it very private, you could adjust that there. Moving on from that, we have dial-in, so allowing attendees to call in from a landline. If they were on their smartphone, they could use our iOS app, or if they were on an Android device, they would be able to just access the webinar on Google Chrome. But if they were just using a traditional landline, you could enable that and they could call in with a number. And then finally, in your advanced settings, this is just kind of the extra bells and whistles. So deciding, you know, who has control in the room, who or when the attendees can enter, and all that good stuff. So definitely encourage you to kind of look through those advanced settings and make those decisions as well. And when I'm done with everything, I just see this green Save Changes button at the top. Make sure I'm clicking that, and it's going to bring me to my Promote and Manage page, which is our dashboard. And before I get to that, I wanted to quickly go to design just to cover how to essentially add images to your webinar page. And I'm going to check again to see if there's any questions. Doesn't look like it, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. So in the design section, this is where you're adding those images that we saw, for example, in Ken Molay's webinar to our own webinar. So there's that background image that you can select. There are some, we have like stock photo images that you can select, or you can upload your own. If I were to choose a stock photo, they do look really great. But if you do end up uploading your own, you do have recommended sizes here. So if you choose an image or are creating an image, you can decide, you know, how to design it based on those requirements or kind of suggestions. We also have the logo image, and you can add that here just by clicking and uploading your own image, and then that would paste the image essentially in the middle of the webinar. And we have two more images that are really important for the session. So the event preview card, that's what we saw when we were looking on the BigMarker homepage or on our webinars page of our channel. That's what the event preview card is going to look like. So we do have some stock photos available for you here as well, but I always suggest uploading an event image because adding those images really just makes people more enticed in your content. And again, we have recommended sizes here, so something good to note. And then finally, another big one is your logo in the conference room. So you can brand your webinar to, if you have a logo or a brand that you want to kind of adhere to. In the left-hand corner of the screen, you'll see in today's webinar, we have the BigMarker logo, but you can go ahead and add your own logo just by, you know, uploading it here in the design section. So that's basically the long and short of the design area, and then we've covered edit. Now, the only thing else that I wanted to really cover today before entering the webinar is the Promote and Manage section. And this is essentially your dashboard to, and basically all of your marketing and promotional tools. So this is where I would send email invitations. I can send it in this, you know, orange button here, or in this link below here to send email invitations. We do have a contact importer, which is great. So as you can see, you have this kind of email template here, but if you wanted to import your own contacts instead of copying and pasting them, you can just go to our contact importer, which you can click here, or you can see below here in the import contact section. Sorry, I'm zoomed in, so it's a little bit of a funky view. Okay, going to import contacts now. You can import from email, you can import from Excel or CSV file. Again, sorry, I'm zoomed in really far, so it's doing a little wonkiness. And then also previously imported lists that you've for previously held webinars. Once you have those lists available, you can go to your email invitations, and in the To section, if you just click here, you'll have those email lists come up, and you can just select if you want to invite all of your channel members or all of your email contacts that you've kind of had, or if you have any other lists that you've imported, then you would be able to select those. And then you can also tailor your message, and then when you send invitations, those will send out to everybody. You can always manage your invitations just by going to the invite list and seeing who received or what the name of the recipient was, when they were invited, if they opened, clicked, or registered for it. So that's a really great tool to let you know how effective those email invitations were. And everybody who receives an email invitation will get notifications reminding them of the event, and if they do register for it, then they'll get those event reminders as well with links and making sure we can get them in the room on the day of your session. I'm going to check back, see if there's any questions. Yes, I will definitely go through the live widgets, or the live event widget. So that is actually on the live page, so I'll get to that in just a second, right before we enter the webinar. But going through just a few more of these promote and manage tools. So you can, like I said, with the import contacts, you can promote socially through BigMarker. You can use SEO and social sharing tags if you want to fill out, if you're going to be kind of doing a lot more SEO tags and things like that. If you do exceed your registration limit and you have a wait list, you can manage that there in the wait list section, and I'll zoom in again so you can see that. Manage event registrants. So if you needed to unregister somebody for whatever reason, or if you wanted to see the source. So if you put a tag on the end of your URL to see where people are coming from, you can always do that. If you ever wanted to test the conference room at any time, meaning just do like a kind of private webinar, you can always do that here. And then also just a few cool pro features to kind of go over quickly before we get into the room. Event analytics is great because you can see all the analytics kind of about your event. Your email attendees, this is where you would not only email out to attendees who attended your webinar, but this is also where you can download your registrant list and your attended list if you were using it for lead generation, your webinars. Custom registration fields, so that is when you register for a webinar, instead of just having your name and email, you can always add fields to ask more information of your registrants. So asking them their occupation, birthday, whatever you want to ask, you can always add those in the custom registration field section. And then also the download recording. Once your recording is processed and posted to your BigMarker landing page on your webinar page, you can download the recording, and it just comes in a standard MP4 file. So zooming out here, going to the live page now to cover widgets before we enter the webinar. So you'll see here in the dashboard, we have the embed registration widget and then embed live event widget. And I know that Brian was asking about that, so we'll get to that shortly. But embed registration widget, if I click here, and this is very bare bones, but your image would show up here. If your About section would show below, unless you chose the small widget size. And then you can customize your Reserve Your Spot button if you want to change it to some different text or change the button color. You can always do that. And then you just copy this code and put it into your website, and then people can register for your webinar, before your website or before the actual time that it happens. And then embed live event widget. This is just a piece of code here. It doesn't give you a preview. But essentially, if you do this and put it into your website, people will be able to attend your live webinar on your own website. You just put that piece of code into your website, and the live event will play. And then once that posts, you can also have the embed recording. So you can put that on your website as well. I hope that answers your question, Brian. Okay, can we only download attendees information with Pro? Yes, so anyone with a paid subscription on BigMarker will have access to all of the Pro features on BigMarker. So that includes selling tickets, that includes being able to record your webinars, that includes being able to have access to attendee information. There's just a ton of great ways to really utilize all of the hosting resources when you have your Pro subscription. And again, that's just any of the paid plans on BigMarker will have those options. Justina asks, how often are the auto emails sent to people who are registered? It depends actually on how far in advance they registered. So if you scheduled out your webinar, a month or two in advance, they would get, I think, reminders each week leading up to it, and then I think the week of or a few days before, they get like a 48-hour, a 24-hour, and maybe a 3-hour reminder. So we're always sending those out just to make sure that they remember. And then Brian asks, does the recording show web camera and presentation screen, or just presentation screen? I need the recording to show both. That's an excellent question. So as you can see, I'm only sharing my mic in today's session, but if I were sharing my camera, you would be able to see me and see the recording, or see me in the live webinar, and then also see the video stream in the recording as well. But if like I'm just sharing mic today, it's not going to show up in the recording. So you'd have to share your camera and your microphone to show both. No problem. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and enter the webinar to show you around. So as a host, I can enter an hour before the start of my webinar, and that's great for uploading your files, doing all of your kind of housekeeping things, so making sure that you're testing out your mic and videos, camera, if you're going to be using both or one or the other. I get this test screen when before I enter as a host, and I can test my audio and my microphone, or excuse me, my audio and my video beforehand. And if I was using an external device, such as like an external webcam or microphone, I'd be able to select those in this drop down below. And then once I'm ready to continue, I just press continue to event. And this is just my little recording reminder, but I'm going to turn that off. So this is the live webinar as you kind of are familiar with it, or at least a little familiar with it now. As you can see, it does look a little bit different because I have this host control panel and nothing's being shared. But this is really, once you're in this room, you're essentially live. Now, like I said, you as the host can enter an hour before the start of your webinar, but your attendees, you can decide if they can enter 30 minutes or 15 minutes before the start. So you'll have at least a 30 to 45-minute window gap where nobody is going to be inside your webinar. And you'll know that nobody is inside because of this attendee section here. It says 0. And also in the People tab, if I click there, it would also say that there was 0 attendees. So I'm going to quickly go through these sharing icons at the top, and then I'll go through the host control panel, and then just a few things in the chat, and then I'm going to open it up to Q&A. So again, feel free to chat in those questions, but I'm just going to go through everything quickly, and then we'll get to Q&A in a second. So again, my microphone, if I didn't turn it on at the start in that test screen, if I was sharing audio only like I'm doing today, I would only press this mic on button. If I wanted to share both my camera and my microphone, I actually wouldn't need to turn on both of these icons. I would only need to turn on this camera icon, and it would share both my camera and my microphone. And I would know that I was sharing my camera or microphone, especially if I was sharing my camera, because I would see myself. And then also I would see a green audio bar moving that shows that my audio is being shared. Next, share screen, and this is what I'm doing today. All I would do is click this and select the screen that I wanted to share. And once I select it, I would get an image that looks like this. So it's on air that I see, and then I could just go onto the screen that I wanted to share and go ahead and share it. I'm seeing now that Brian has another question. Can you have multiple webcams with different angles and switch during the webinar? So if you wanted to do that, you'd have to be logged in with different accounts to be able to use different kind of webcams or angles, or you could have the multiple webcams set up and kind of switch your camera at different times during the session. So as long as they were all plugged in at the same time, you would be able to switch them, but you couldn't do it simultaneously, if that makes sense. Wonderful. So going back here now, so we've covered share screen. Next we have share file, and this is if you're going to be sharing like a slideshow, like a PowerPoint slides or an image or something like that. And if I were to click share file, I'll zoom out a little bit. I can browse my files and upload my slideshow. Please note that it is preferred, at least right now, that your files are in PDF format. So if you were in PowerPoint, you would just go to export to PDF, and then it would just change the file formatting. It just looks a little bit crisper and cleaner. We will be having PowerPoint integration in the near future, but right now, if you do want to have the best quality, you'll want to upload PDF files. And I have a slideshow kind of already uploaded, so I can go ahead and open it. And this is where my slideshow would kind of hang out. So this is a presentation screen on BigMarker. Again, the host control panel is only for me as the host, so if I were to kind of take it away, this would be more similar to what the attendees would experience during the session. And I can go and click through my slides in real time, and this is what everybody in the room would see. So if I was clicking through, you know, my slides, just note that it's not just me seeing it, it's everybody who's in the room. So you'll want to make sure that when you upload those slides, you're conscious of that. There is also a drawing tool, so if you wanted to highlight any text or draw anything for whatever reason, you can just use this drawing tool to essentially select your color, brush size, so maybe I want it really thick, and then I can go ahead and draw, you know, and do all that cool stuff in case I was highlighting text, like I said, or wanted to draw. And if I wanted to undo, I could always do that. But that's basically the slideshow format. If I were to go do something else and remove this, so note that I'm on slide 3 of 3, and I go ahead and remove it and say I want to play a YouTube video, which I've already uploaded one. All you have to do to upload a YouTube video is paste the YouTube link here and add the video. Once I do that, I can play it. I just have this Jimmy Fallon one. If I were to go ahead and press play, I could, you know, play, stop, adjust the volume. Obviously, you can't hear it because I'm wearing headphones today, but the audio would play for your audience, so they would be able to watch it in real time with you. But the cool thing about sharing files on BigMarker, so if I were to go back to my slideshow, I could reopen it, and it would bring me right back to slide 3 of 3 that I was sharing before. So if I had other things that I wanted to do in between my slideshow, I could always reopen it during the webinar and go right back to where I was. Let's see. Okay, doesn't look like anyone has any questions about the sharing options on BigMarker, so I'm going to quickly go through this host control panel and the chat, and then again, we'll go through that Q&A. So the host control panel, like I said, is only for the admins of the webinar. So as an admin, I have access to audience permissions and also individual permissions as well. So in my audience permissions, I have 2 kind of options toggled to green at the start of my webinar and 2 toggled off. And the first is show attendee list. And this essentially allows the audience, so the attendees in the webinar, to be able to see who else is in the webinar by clicking on the People tab at the top. If you wanted to not let your attendees know how many people are in the webinar, or if it was a very private webinar and you wanted to give some anonymity to the audience, you can turn this off. Same with public chat. So as you can see, our public chat feature in today's webinar is turned on. But if I did want to disable the chat for whatever reason, I could turn it off, and I can also turn these back on at any time. So if I wanted to save like a Q&A session till the end, but I wanted to keep my public chat off during my webinar, I could always turn it off and then turn it on later. And then these 2 options, attendee mic disabled and attendee cam plus mic disabled, are really more geared towards meeting tools, because what this allows, if I turn these on, it will essentially give anyone in my attendee list the ability to share their microphone or camera at any time. So I like to keep these off, and instead, if I want to let somebody in my webinar come on and share, you know, like if they have a really great question that I want to kind of chat out with them or anything like that, they'll have in your attendee section here, each person will be listed, and they'll have some icons that look similar to these next to their name. And if you scroll over it, it will say something like, enable this person's microphone or enable this person's camera. And if you do that, then it will give that one single person access rather than everybody in the room access, because even if people don't mean to, they might accidentally kind of not ruin the webinar, but make it a little bit more exciting than you may have planned. So it's always nice to kind of have more control. And then here, like I said, we have the attendees, presenters, and admins. So as an admin, I have access to this host control panel. As a presenter, you can appoint people as presenters in the room. They'll have an icon next to their name that you can choose. It's just 3 dots, and if you click on it, you can decide if you want to make attendees or presenters admins. You can decide, you know, in the room if you want to make people, you know, be able to share. But presenters, the only difference that they have from the admins, excuse me, they don't have access to this host control panel, but they do have access to all of these sharing options. So if you did have a guest host in the room, this would be a good way to get them kind of sharing everything, but not have the full audience permissions and everything like that. And then attendees, when they enter the room, they do not have any privileges unless you grant them this sharing, but that would only allow them to share their microphone and or camera, but not files or anything else. Next, record. So if you wanted to record your webinar, which we always recommend, you have in the host control panel the option to start your recording. And it's important to note that you can only start and stop your recording once. So if you do end up wanting to record, make sure that when you're ready to start, you press start, and when you're ready to stop, you press stop, and you don't have quite a bit of lag time in between. And then in your advanced settings, this is just where you can note if you want to broadcast in HD. So if you have a really good quality internet connection, this is great for really making a high definition experience. And then also, if you did add Twitter to your chat, which I'll show you how to do in a moment, you could hide all tweets if, for whatever reason, something was coming in that you didn't want to show. And that kind of segues into the chat section. So you've kind of become familiar with the chat area. One thing I did want to note here is if you did want to add a hashtag to your event, you can always add one. I definitely recommend adding a more personalized hashtag, so something very specific to your organization or your webinar, because if you do something very generic, it's going to pull in a bunch of chat or tweets from, that are kind of tweeting out on Twitter, and you'd be very shocked to see how many people are doing hashtag webinar at the time of your webinar. So make sure to keep it very specific to your event. And then in the People tab, like I mentioned, this is where the attendees, presenters, and admins would be listed. You can also privately chat from the People tab. So if you wanted to ask your presenter a question that you didn't want to ask the room, or if you wanted to kind of have a side conversation, you could always do so in the private chat. And then finally, in the poll section, you can always create new polls for your event. If you just click Create a New Poll and get a pop-up, and that's pretty much very easy to do. It's not much more than that. Once you poll the audience, they get a little pop-up asking them to answer the poll. But that's pretty much the long and short of the hosting experience. The only other thing in the host control panel that I wanted to draw your attention to is this End Webinar button. And the End Webinar button not only ends the webinar, but it kicks everybody out of the room and it shuts the room down. So only until you're very, very ready to end your webinar, so there's no more questions or anything like that, that's when you'll want to press this button. And again, that's only available to the admins on your webinar. Okay, and I have a few other questions here with Twitter integration. I think I covered most of that. The only other thing that I wanted to cover with Twitter is that you can also tweet from the room. So all you have to do is hook up your Twitter account to the chat, and by doing that, all you have to do is post the tweet. So, saying like, this webinar is awesome. And if you have the hashtag associated with your webinar, it will auto be filled into this tweet, and along with a link to the webinar. And if I click tweet, then it will not only tweet it onto my actual Twitter account, but it will also show up in this chat section here as to alert that I've actually tweeted it out. And again, all you need to do when you press tweet, if you haven't verified your Twitter account already, it will just say, can BigMarker access your Twitter account? And then it will, let you tweet from the room. So I hope that answers Brian's question. And then we have another question here. Do the transcripts from the chat get saved? Yes, they do, and you can have those post-webinar if you wanted to look through those. Can you also address MailChimp integration? Yeah, absolutely. So we are currently integrated with Zapier, Z-A-P-I-E-R. And if you have a Zapier or Zapier account, then what you can do is integrate it with BigMarker, and then you can essentially utilize that information and integrate it that way. We are hoping to actually integrate directly with MailChimp in the future, but right now this is a great workaround for you. Then we have another question that says, what if your webinar goes longer than expected? Can you update the time midway? So there is a buffer on your webinar. you are able to, again, like I said, enter an hour beforehand, and then also it will stay open for, I believe, an hour after the webinar as well. So if you have like an hour-long webinar and it turns into an awesome discussion, and that actually goes like a half an hour or 45 minutes past your webinar time, you'll be fine. The room will stay open. But if you do get to that kind of 2-hour mark, that's when you're going to kind of be a little bit, the webinar might shut down. If you do end up before the event wanting to change your time right away before you enter, you can always do that in the edit section, change the duration. But during the webinar itself, just to be safe, you might want to add some more time just in case. It looks like I'm going to scroll through. I don't think I have any other questions. I'm going to stop screen sharing for right now, but I can always restart it if need be. And I'm just going to kind of hang out in the room for a minute. I'm scrolling through the chats now just to see if there's any other questions. But if not, or if you're thinking of questions, I'll stick around for the next 5 or so minutes to go ahead and answer those. So just making sure I didn't miss anything. And please let me know if I did miss your question. Okay. Oh, great. Thanks, Brian. Okay, Christy has another question. She says, what is the recommended event list? How can we promote our webinars this way? And when you say the recommended event list, where are you referring to? Are you talking about the home page? Sure. So on BigMarker, like I said, with the home page, we have the BigMarker Our Picks or Staff Picks. And then we have what's popular or trending on BigMarker. And then also we have, let me see what else, and then also most popular. And if you're asking about how to get onto the BigMarker staff picks, you can always feel free to submit your webinars to me. You can email me directly at hannah.scherer@bigmarker.com. And I'm actually the lead content curator of the site, so I actually manage all of the featured content on BigMarker's homepage. So if there's if you are hosting a webinar and you want to have it or submit it to be considered for featuring, we would love to look through your content. And if we aren't necessarily interested in featuring it, or if we have any suggestions for you, we do work a lot with hosts to essentially be able to get their content featured. And then we have another question here. Is the pro cost monthly or by webinar? That's a great question. So you, with your subscription, I'll actually share my screen to go quickly through the pricing page. Oh, thank you, Christy. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to go to BigMarker.com/pricing. Okay, and can you see my screen again? Just make sure that you can see it again. Okay, fabulous. So this is BigMarker's pricing page, and we have 4 different tiers of pricing: Basic, Plus, Elite, and Summit. And like I said, with the pricing, it goes by attendee capacity. So if you need 25 attendees or 1,000 attendees in your webinar, you can really decide what plan is best for you. And you are billed monthly, or you can choose to be billed annually, which does get a 20% discount in price. So if you're paying month to month, for example, for the basic account, if you pay monthly, you're paying $29 a month to host unlimited webinars, or $19 a month if you're billed annually. So kind of locking into a contract for that. And you can pay month to month for that as well, but you're just locking into the contract. Whereas paying for the month to month pricing, then you can upgrade, you can downgrade at any time or stop paying at any time. Does that answer your question, Tarika? I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm somewhat terrible with names. So I hope that answers your question. Oh, and another cool thing I wanted to note about the pricing pages, well, first of all, you can get a free trial with any of them, which is great, because I know some platforms you can only do it with a certain plan or what have you. So you can always test out that way. And then also, all of the features that you saw today are available on every single plan. So really, when you're deciding your BigMarker pricing plan, really the only thing that you have to factor in, unless you're doing the summit, which we can talk about after, is the attendee capacity. Summit actually just, the only difference there is that they get a little bit more priority support as far as like telephone support and things like that. Terica. Okay, Terica, got it. Yes, so like I said, with the month-to-month pricing, you can upgrade or downgrade at any time. So for example, if I knew that I was only hosting a few webinars, like I know specifically of an organization on BigMarker that hosts 4 webinars each year. They know they do this, you know, they host a webinar each quarter, and maybe they don't want to pay for the whole year, they only want to pay for the month that they're hosting. So what they do is they have their month-to-month account, and just on the months that they're hosting, they upgrade to the plan that they wanted. And then after that month, then they downgrade back down until the next quarter. So you can always have that flexibility if you choose the month-to-month plan on BigMarker. After you record a webinar, can you host it on YouTube? I assume you mean like, can you post it on YouTube? Yes. So another great thing, I'm going to stop screen sharing again. Another great thing you can do with BigMarker is you can post it to YouTube directly from BigMarker. Now, it will post to BigMarker's YouTube channel. So if you wanted to post it to your own YouTube channel, all you'd have to do is do that download recording. And then once you've downloaded it, then you can, it's just like an MP4 file, just in any other video format. And then just as you would with any other video format on YouTube, you would just upload that video and then be able to post it on your own YouTube channel. But if you didn't care what YouTube channel it was on, you could just directly post it through BigMarker and put it on our channel. For the pricing plan, we can switch between the basic $29 a month without contract and the free version. Yes, so when you pay, it's for the month-to-month pricing, you pay for just on the monthly pricing. So if you wanted to, like I said, pay for June, but then in July downgrade, you could absolutely do that. And again, that's in your channel settings. All you have to do is in your channel settings, just select billing and subscriptions, and then in there you can just upgrade and downgrade very easily. Alrighty, I think that might be it for questions. I'm going to stick around still a bit longer. We've had a great session today. Again, thank you so much for attending. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now, just in case, but we'll still be able to hang out in the room for a little bit and watch the, or check out if anyone has any questions or anything. So feel free to stick around, but I'm just going to go ahead and stop the recording. So I wanted to say thank you again, and happy hosting on BigMarker. Again, you have my email address, hannah.scherer@bigmarker.com, if you have any questions post-webinar or questions down the road that you want to ask. So feel free to email me at any time, but thanks again. It was a pleasure. Oh, yes.